Hey everybody, today I'm coming to you with a bit of relationship advice. Now, I don't consider myself a relationship expert, but I do consider myself an expert in my own marriage because I've been in it for over 20 years now. I was asked recently in a Q&A video that I did, what is some relationship advice? And I gave one piece of advice there and then had to stop myself because I realized I could just go on and I've got a lot to say on that. So I decided to make a whole different video. Now, I'm not telling you how to live your life. I just wanted to share some of the things that work for me and my husband and make our marriage strong and functional. So eat the fish and spit out the bones, by which I mean take what you think is valuable for you and discard the rest, and please assume positive intent. My number one piece of advice would be don't marry an idiot or a lazy person or a selfish person to start with, because people don't change. You can't help who you fall in love with, but you can help who you choose to marry. And if you marry somebody who treats you badly or is lazy and selfish, then don't get all upset when they're lazy and selfish in your marriage, because that's who you chose to marry. And please, abuse has to be a deal breaker, preferably before you get married. If there is any abuse, value yourself to get enough to get out of that relationship, and don't go ahead and marry that person or stay with that person, because you deserve better. So, I mean, people will say, oh, Grant treats you so well and he's great with the kids and all these things, like I just got so lucky. And in a way I did. I got lucky enough to find and fall in love with somebody like that who also loved me back. But also I chose to marry somebody who I knew would be a good father to my children. That's not something I took lightly, and that's something that was important to me when deciding to marry Grant, is that I knew what kind of a husband he would be. Okay, the tip that I mentioned in my Q&A is don't play games. You're a grown-up. I assume if you're married, you're a grown-up. This is not high school, and playing games is not helpful to a mature relationship. By that I mean, being annoyed and being like, oh, I'm going to see how long it takes him to ask me what's wrong, or if you don't know why you annoyed me, then I'm not going to tell you. You need to figure it out. Like, if he doesn't know, he doesn't know. And if you want him to not do that again, you need to explain to him what he did wrong. I mean, it goes both ways. He needs to explain to you as well and communicate. Like, number one is communication. You're not going to have a successful relationship if you can't communicate. Now, not everybody is born with amazing communication skills, but there are so many resources out there to teach that to you, that if you find that you're not great at communicating in your relationship, make an effort to learn how to improve that and to learn better communication skills, because some people are born with it and some people aren't, but everybody can learn it. So there's really no excuse. Even something as simple as choosing the correct language that you speak to each other. If you're having an argument, try and avoid saying you always do this, you never do that, because all that does is promote an automatic response of, well, I don't always do it, sometimes and it completely misses the point. If you use language such as, when you do such and such, I feel da 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 da, they can't argue with that. They can't argue with how you feel, but they can argue and dispute the fact that maybe they don't always do whatever you're upset about. So if you use I language instead of you language, it's less confrontational and actually communicates the problem better. Even using phrasing when you're asking them to do you a favor, how you phrase that makes a difference. If you say, can you do such and such? They may think, yeah, I can, but I really don't want to. If you say, will you do such and such for me? They will generally say, yeah, I'll do that. Grant tends to come to me and say, do you feel like doing whatever, insert horrible chore that no, I don't feel like doing? And I have an automatic response of, no, I really don't feel like doing that. If he just comes to me and says, will you come and do this with me? Then yeah, I will come and do that with you. Don't ask me if I feel like doing it or not, because the answer is going to be no. If we're getting into an argument and we're both starting to shout, that usually means we're not being heard. If you don't feel heard, you're just going to shout louder and you're going to keep on. So what we try and do then is stop and listen to what the other person is saying, try and understand their point, and if they feel heard, they're going to be more receptive to hearing and listening to you. And yeah, it'd be great if the other person did it first, but be willing to be the one who stops and does that first. Sometimes one of us will say something quite innocuous and the other person will like hit the roof and have a complete overreaction. It's helpful then to sometimes stop and say, when I asked you such and such, what did you hear me say? Or what do you think I meant when I asked you such and such? And when they explain what they think you meant, usually they've like assumed something or got the wrong end of the stick or taken offense, and then you can clear it up. I'll give you an example of this. When I was feeling very overwhelmed with young children and the house was a mess and I was feeling like a failure because I wasn't on top of things, if Grant came home and went to the room to get changed, had a shower, and then said, is there any clean underwear? This actually happened. I like hit the roof because I felt like he was coming in and saying, I was like, there's no clean underwear. I haven't even got there yet. I've had my hands full all day. And he was like, what do you think I meant when I asked you, is there any clean underwear? And I said, well, you're asking me why the laundry's not done or why I'm not on top of things. And I'm trying to tell you, I'm feeling overwhelmed. And he's like, no, all I was asking is there any clean underwear that I can put on now? Or do I need to run a wash for you? Or is there washing that I can put away for you? And then I realized I was completely overreacting, assuming he meant something negative when he didn't. So stopping and asking, what do you think I meant? Or when I said such and such, what did you hear? Sometimes can clear up a misunderstanding before it gets out of hand. I just want to apologize for the lighting. The sun's doing the thing where it goes in and out of the clouds, and sorry. Sometimes if Grant and I are having a hard time working out an issue and we're each starting to shout and fight and argue and we aren't being heard and we aren't communicating very effectively, we will actually email each other. Now what this does is it creates a bit of space. If you are sitting composing an email and wanting to get your point across, you can take your time choosing the correct words. You can go back, read what you've written, change it maybe because it's not expressing what you want to say correctly. You can tweak things before you actually send it. And when the other person receives it, they may read it and be shocked and horrified at what you said and have a big reaction, and they can get over that and then go back and read it and listen properly. And it just gives a bit of space that you're not throwing your first reactions at each other. And then they can take their time to compose their reply. And this has been really helpful for us to be able to work through an issue. And yeah, I'd highly recommend doing that if you need to. Now, when you are having an issue and you need to work it out and you're starting to fight, I know a lot of people say, don't go to bed angry, work it out. And no, that doesn't work for us. 9 times out of 10, the reason we're arguing in the first place is because we're overtired and we're stressed, whatever, and just storming off and going and getting a good night's sleep. The next day you realize, you know what, it's really not that important and you can work it out and be rational. But the later we stay up, the more and more worked up we get and the worse the issue get, and then you start saying things you're going to regret and bringing up things from the past, which is another no-no. So I'd say if you need to go to bed angry, go to bed angry. Work it out tomorrow because a good night's sleep can fix a lot. Now the golden rule is treat others as you would like to be treated, but I would say take that a step further and treat others or treat your spouse or your partner the way they would like to be treated, which may not be the way you would like to be treated. Part of doing this is working out what their love language is. If you haven't heard about the love language thing, there are supposedly 5 love languages, and that's the way that you express love. And out of those 5 languages, which are acts of service, words of affirmation, quality time, physical touch, and gifts, one of those, or maybe more than one, will make you feel loved more than the others. And if you know what your spouse's or your partner's love language is, you can concentrate your efforts there and they will feel most loved. So I'm not saying like, oh yeah, put in less effort, but if you're going to put in effort, wouldn't you want to put it in where it counts? For example, if you spend all your time doing acts of service and slaving away to show love to your partner, but their love language is physical touch, they may not feel loved. But if you know that their love language is physical touch and you make sure to put your hand on their leg when they're driving or give them a hug or offer a massage, that's going to get you way more brownie points and make them feel way more loved than all of this work that you've been doing slaving away as acts of service. Does that make sense? So figure out what their love language is. I'll put a link below to what that's about if you need to work that out. There's quizzes you can take, but you may even be able to figure it out just on your own. Sometimes what I'll do is I'll ask Grant before he leaves for work, what is most important to you that gets done today? And he may say, the house really needs a vacuum and I'm running low on clean underwear. Then I know, right, if I whiz around with a vacuum cleaner and do a load of washing, he's happy. That's made him happy, rather than, oh, I've washed all the windows and I've made all the beds and I've ironed all the clothes and I've cooked all these dinners, and he comes home and is like, the floors are disgusting, and then I'll feel unappreciated and he'll feel like, really, that was just one little thing to do. So yeah, communicate and just ask, what do you want? What do you need? So if I ask him what he wants and needs, make sure I do that as a priority and get to all the other things later, everybody's happy. Obviously this goes both ways. Now, in a marriage or in a relationship, there is no room for pride. Three's a crowd, okay? There's the two of you, pride needs to leave. Be prepared to apologize. No, it's not easy. No, it's not fun. Nobody enjoys it, but be willing to apologize and also be willing to be corrected. You are human, you're going to make mistakes as well, and you probably do things, or will at some point do things that will annoy the people you live with and annoy your partner or your spouse. Be willing to be corrected. If they say, do you know, it really bugs me when you XYZ, take it on the chin and go, oh, sorry, won't do that again. Don't get your back up and get all prideful and be like, well, you can't tell me what to do, and really, no. Because if they're doing something that annoys you, you would want them to stop. So you need to just swallow your pride, be willing to be corrected, be willing to admit when you're wrong and say sorry. That is one thing that I so appreciate about Grant, is he has no pride. He is the most humble person you will ever meet. And if we have an argument and I say, this is why I'm upset, and explain it to him, and he goes away and thinks about it, if he realizes, yeah, I have a point, or, you know, it's not that one of us is right and one of us is wrong, but that's how he made me feel, he will come to me and say, I was wrong, I'm sorry. And I so appreciate that. And I try to make the effort to do the same to him. If I'm wrong, I will go and apologize. If I've completely flipped out and overreacted because like I'm moody and PMSing or whatever, I will go to him and apologize and say that I was wrong, because there's just no room for pride in our marriage. I would say also, please be loyal to your husband or wife or partner or whoever. I know somebody who literally every time I speak to her, she complains about her husband. She complains about what he does or what he doesn't do, and it makes me think, like, why are you even with him? Like, you chose to be with this person, you need to be loyal to them. If you really have nothing positive to say, then just keep your mouth shut. But don't go around bad mouthing them to other people. If you're having problems with them, like, we all need to vent sometimes, and it helps sometimes to have a good old moan about your husband because he's driving you crazy, and, you know, maybe do that with a close trusted friend. But if you're having issues that you need to work out, don't go and involve another person in that. You need to work it out between the two of you. Please remember that you and your partner are on the same team. When things are really stressful and things are going badly and you're frustrated, it's tempting to like have a big old vent and have a go at your partner. But remember that you're actually on the same team. It's the two of you against the world, and remember that. When they do things or say things, try to give them the benefit of the doubt and assume positive intent, rather than assume that they're trying to make you crazy, or that they know that this will upset you and they're choosing to do it anyway. They've probably forgotten. Just kind of assume positive intent and then go from there. Give them the benefit of the doubt, because you would want them to do the same to you. Try and remember, you guys chose to be together. You're on the same team. It should be the two of you facing the world rather than against each other. Something that's helpful to remember when you're feeling angry at your partner is that anger isn't emotion on its own. It's not an actual emotion. Anger is actually a manifestation of either hurt or fear or frustration. So if you're feeling angry, stop and ask yourself, why am I actually angry? What am I actually feeling? Am I feeling hurt? Am I feeling afraid? Am I feeling frustrated? Or am I feeling more than one of those at a time? And that gets to kind of the root of the problem and can help you find your own point of why you're angry, so that you can communicate that. If your partner is angry, it's easy to feel defensive and be like, why are you angry at me? But if you stop and try and figure out why are they angry, then you might feel differently about the situation. If you realize that your partner's actually feeling afraid, then what you're doing takes on a different meaning. What you're doing, they're feeling threatened by. let's talk about that. Why does this threaten you? Why are you feeling afraid? Rather than like, don't get angry at me because I want to do this. So that's helpful to remember that anger is not an emotion on its own. I find it helpful to actually treat my marriage as if it's a fifth member of our family. So what I mean by that is I will think, there's Grant. What is he going through? What does he need? How can I make him successful and happy in our family? And I'll think about Daniel and Noah and myself. What are we going through at the moment? What do we need? How can I nurture them? How can I make them feel loved? And then I will think of my marriage. How's my marriage doing? What does my marriage need? How can I strengthen it today? How can I nurture that? And not just take it for granted that it's this thing in the background that is just there. We got married like a million years ago and now it's just there. No, it's something to actively nurture and feed and tend and look after. I really, really hope that this video hasn't come across as preachy or anything like that. I just am passionate about strong marriages, and if I can even share one tiny little piece of advice that might help you in yours, that makes me happy. But I really don't want you to think that I'm sitting here thinking like, oh, I'm better than everybody else and have this amazing marriage and I will help you with these tips. That's not at all what I'm trying to do. I'm just grateful that I have such an amazing marriage, and it brings me so much joy that I want to share that, and I want to be able to help anybody in some small way if I can. So hopefully something in this video was helpful to you and can make a difference in your relationship. And if so, that would mean the world to me. That just makes my day to think that that might be possible. So I think I've waffled on for quite long enough. I hope some of that was helpful. We have learned a thing or two along the way, Grant and I. I've actually been married for more than half my life now, and I hope I've learned a thing or two along the way. And I hope some of that is helpful to you. Obviously, nobody out there is going to have the most amazing spouse in the world because I have him, but whoever you end up with, I hope that some of these tips can help strengthen your relationship and make it a long and happy one. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.